Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Welcome to your People, Your Success podcast. Really happy to do this episode 6. We had a little bit of a break, but really happy to be back. I have a very good friend of mine that I will be introducing in a second. What are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about how to turn your customer experience into your team success and vice versa. How much customer experience is related to team success and how much taking care of your team will impact your customer experience. And couldn't be better to talk about that than someone as an expert on customer experience, Dan Pratt, and someone all about training customer service and the power of people such as myself. So I would like to introduce this wonderful gentleman who is a friend of mine as well. So Dan is an accomplished award-winning customer experience consultant, founder and director of DAP Consultancy. Dan helps businesses enhance their customer experience and interactions, boosting their customer retention, satisfaction, and profitability. With a proven track record of delivering impactful results, he has developed strategies that align customer experiences with business goals, transforming how companies engage with their customers. Dan, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on. Obviously, we talked about this for a little while, and I've been super excited. Yeah, finally on, very happy about this. And it's been a little while since we spoke as well. The last time we met was in Paris for a coffee back in the summer, which was lovely. Finally got to meet you in person then, and we'll have to do the same in London next time I'm over. Pleasure to be here. And for people that don't know, like Pierre said, my name is Dan Pratt. I'm a customer experience consultant and founder and director of DAP Consultancy. I'm also chief operating officer of PureOneTravel.com as well. I've known Pierre for a long time. Customer experience is something very passionate to me. I grew my career in customer experience. I was customer experience director in many different roles over the years. In 2020, I decided to start DAP Consultancy, my customer experience consulting business. And as all great industries do, me and Pierre crossed paths and share exactly the same idea. We are yin and yang. I'm an Englishman living in Paris and he's a Frenchman living in the UK. We share the same beliefs, and ultimate goal is obviously to make the world better from delivering better customer experiences. And that's what I'm all about, which you can see more obviously on my website, dapconsultancy.co.uk. Super excited to answer your questions today. And like I said, last time we spoke, we could have spoken for hours.
That's true. And we made so many great comparisons between France and UK. And yeah, how can we start this podcast without mentioning it? You're totally right. We are each other's yin and yang. A Frenchman living in the UK and an Englishman living in France. It should be the title of a song. Maybe we should stop our career and just become a band.
I agree.
Like do songs around that funny friendship, and really happy to have you as a friend. So thank you again for being here. Before I get started, if you like to subscribe to my podcast channel on Spotify, feel free to leave a 5-star ranking if you enjoyed this episode and the ones before or the ones to come. My podcast channel is also on my YouTube. So if you like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, give a thumbs up if you like the episode or the ones before. And let's get started without further ado. So let me start with the first question. Very simple one, but goes right into the heart of today's topics. How can a strong customer experience strategy or a strong customer experience itself influence team motivation and performance?
It all goes down to morale, doesn't it? If people are happy, that happiness is infectious. It passes on. So if a customer is happy, if there's a good customer experience strategy in place and the customers are happy, those team members that delivered that will feel good about themselves. They will feel happy. And I share that in the same way, if something goes wrong, you feel bad about it, you might feel guilty, or you feel that you've not. And then again, that will bleed on to other people as well. People will feel that. So by having a good customer experience strategy in place isn't just beneficial to your business, it's really good for everybody's mental health and morale as well. If team members are happier, they will deliver better service. The better service that's delivered, the happier the customers are. The happier customers are, better retention, less churn, more spend, better loyalty, and so forth. It goes round in full circle. Team members generally are very proud of the work that they do. If they realise that they're achieving and making customers happy, then ultimately they'll be happy themselves. And the happier they are, again, it goes round in the full circle and they deliver better services. It's incredibly important to look after your teams and customers. Richard Branson once famously said, just a quote that I love from him, is that when you do have a team, you need to train and empower them well enough that they can leave, but treat them well enough that they don't want to. Your business will be successful.
Yeah. And I'm really happy you mentioned Richard Branson, because the two main characters being constantly mentioned on this podcast are Richard Branson and Isadora Sharp, the founder of Four Seasons.
And that's not something we rehearsed either.
No, we definitely did not. I completely agree with what you said. I think if you only aim to make the experience better for your customers and you're not really looking at your team, you're not going to make it good for your customers because your team's going to struggle. They're not going to be able to handle the customers effectively. They're not going to be able to anticipate and being proactive on the things they need to be proactive. It's going to impact their mood. It's going to impact their ability to interact successfully with customers and to handle the customers the right way. So, of course, it's going to have an impact eventually on the customers. You need to do it for your people. But by doing it for your people, you will also make an impact on your customers. But you should do it for both. Both should be the reasons. I go to a company, a restaurant, anywhere where, there's some strong processes. If the team keeps changing all the time, I'm not going to be trusting that company as much, even if they have correct processes in place, because those processes always going to be handled by people who's going to have to be learning something new. We're not going to be experienced yet enough to handle those processes the correct way. So I think it's really important to understand that if you have strong processes in place to deliver the best customer experience, you also need to have strong people who are happy and loyal in order to deliver it, right?
Completely agree. Years ago, when I used to work for a big restaurant group, they operated 500 plus restaurants in the UK, and I came up with a campaign which was make every guest feel special. And again, it had a cross-pollination purpose, as well as making the guest feel special. It empowered the team members to feel special as well. And so it was quite easy for a waiter or restaurant manager to make a customer feel special. They were in a position to be able to do. But how did somebody in the finance department, for example, make a customer feel special? How did somebody in marketing in the office make a customer feel special? And there was many ways. So I set everybody the task of this. And on my committee, I had an ops manager, area manager, restaurant manager, finance manager, HR manager, to put their input on, and eventually everybody went away and they came back, and somebody in finance, they came up with a new process. If we overcharged a customer, people thought they were typing in their PIN number when they were typing in a tip and things like that. Instead of taking 3 to 5 working days to get the money back to them, I challenged them with getting that money paid back to them within 24 hours. So it made the customer feel special. We made it quicker for them, especially if they had a mortgage or bill to come out. But then ultimately we had less complaints, we had less chasing people come through, which meant the finance had less of me on them saying, can you go, hurry up, refund this customer? So they felt better. Yeah. Plus then ultimately they felt better about themselves because they've made the world a slightly happier place. And they saw spend come up, and those customers would come back and spend more because the complaint was resolved quickly and adequately. And ultimately it all came up. So that was a key thing, like I said, is challenging each area. So even if you're not directly customer focused, every part of the business needs to be customer focused and team focused. And then that way, the morale for customers and your team members will increase.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it also comes down to understanding that complaints of the customer journey are part of delivering customer service, are part of customer experience in general. Perfect customer service doesn't exist. What exists in the meantime is aiming for perfect customer service. Business without complaints doesn't exist. Customer service where you don't have complaints doesn't exist neither. What does exist, in the other end, is being able to aim for having as little complaint as possible, but also aiming to handle the complaints the correct way in order to not only take those complaints as an opportunity, but also get a better outcome and get even more trust and loyalty from the customers. In fact, complaints are one of the best way to generate that trust from clients. It's a little bit like you really see friendship or love through those tough moments in life. It's exactly the same with complaints. Once you see the true value of the business in terms of handling the complaint, showing how much the business care, helping the customers to find the right outcome and caring for that outcome and going above and beyond to do that. And even if handling the complaint is about having those courageous conversations, telling them how things work, you don't make it conflictual. Instead, you're making it about me as a business willing to help you, me as a professional willing to help you. Once you understand that, once you see complaints as an opportunity to get the best outcome and to generate more trust, more loyalty, more satisfaction from clients, you understand everything. And I think that's so important.
I completely agree. And complaints are a gift. I think people should look at that as a great gift. It's an opportunity. It's people that know your business inside out, that care about your business, that are giving you free advice on how to improve your business and how to keep your customers coming back. You can pay thousands of pounds for outsourced analysis and AI systems to analyze all this. But ultimately, if a customer complains, they're doing so because they care and they want you to come back. In the same way, the reason they're annoyed is because they care and they like what they want and they want it to be changed and keep coming back. Complaints should never be used as a negative thing. It's always a positive thing. If you turn a complaint around, the customer is generally happier after a complaint has been turned around than if they'd just had an average experience in the first place. It demonstrates that you can pick up the pieces. It demonstrates trust and things like that. And also you can use it as a good opportunity as well from other points. So if you give them a goodwill gesture, like a free coffee, that will go a long way to gain their trust and bring them back. And then we did two things on that. When I was at a restaurant group, we realized that when we used to give a customer a £20 voucher to come back and have a free main course, they didn't just spend the £20, they bought a coffee and a starter and a drink, and they generally brought somebody with them. And it turned out actually that these goodwill gesture vouchers had a bigger marketing push than the actual marketing emails with 25% off food. But the real scary thing is that happy people are happy, which is great, and they'll tell you that. Unhappy people are unhappy, and you've got an opportunity to win them back and also take that feedback on board. But when we look at MPS, which is detractors, which is 1 to 6, 7s and 8s are passive, and 9 and 10 are promoters. It's the 7s and 8s, the passive, that's the most dangerous area, because these people will just walk away and leave and never tell you why. Whereas 9s and 10s are very happy, and detractors are actively going to tell you and complain. The real scary bit is those middle ones. So if anybody out there is conducting surveys with their customers, focus on the 7s and 8s, the ones that just drift away into the night and you never see again discreetly. That's the key thing. But going back to the original point, complaints, if handled well, can do wonders for your business and have higher customer satisfaction. But do never, ever look at a complaint as a negative thing. Because a lot of people moan and say, oh, we've got so many complaints coming through. No, it's feedback for free about how to improve your business from people that love you. That's my stats on that.
I completely agree. 2 points I'd like to briefly add before I go to the next question. What you said about the detractors is so true. I saw that already in the past, those different categories. I bring it in a different way. What I say is very simple. Only 20% of unhappy clients are complaining about it. They may just never complain about it, never really mention it. They just never come back. Or they may not say it until there's something bigger coming later. And once that thing comes, that's when they complain. Sometimes you only look at the image part of the iceberg, what happened on that specific instance, but you didn't realize that there's been 9 other things that happened before that we didn't realize as a business that made the client unhappy. We cannot just be like, oh, why is that client reacting like this for that little things? Sometimes we all have not sometimes, all the time, we have a level of tolerating certain things, and we're going to let it accumulate until we decide that thing is the thing we're not going to let go through. And that's when we complain as clients. Many clients, they're very direct. They're going to complain on the first things, but not all of them. Most clients will not complain right away. So a very important part of complaint handling is proactiveness in asking for feedback, which could be my next question to you. Proactiveness in checking on their satisfaction. Proactiveness in seeing what things could be done better by getting those insights from your customers. For example, a very simple type of question is lock-on question. Lock-on question is a yes or no type of question. But depending on their answer, they're more likely to tell you what they feel than if you would have asked that question. And you can ask those lock-on questions when you spot specific signs of frustrations that are nonverbal communication that you can easily spot if the team is being trained on it. And those things are things that I'm training people on. Because if you start to be proactive by knowing what signs of frustrations to spot, and then asking those lock-on questions accordingly once you spot those signs of frustrations, you can increase by a huge percentage the amount of feedback you got from those silent clients that were unhappy by something and didn't say about it. Either they would have left without saying it and never coming back, or either they would have complained later on something bigger and then it's too late. They're too unhappy now. The other thing I wanted to add is that sometimes it's not necessarily what you do to handle the complaint that will make the client happy. It's how you do it and how much care you show throughout the way. I had examples of people turning to me their issue they had, or they even tagging me on LinkedIn on specific things they face. And funny enough, on most instances, the business find a correct resolution, but it's the way they didn't show enough care, they didn't acknowledge enough, they didn't apologize well enough and show acknowledge the client's frustration. So they found a very good resolution to the complaint, but how they've done it wasn't done well. They were not happy with the resolution. And I think that's a very important point about that nonverbal communication, that care, that attitude. Because at the end of the day, customer service is all about the soft skills. The hard skills, they're all different from one place to another. But the soft skills, it's people dealing with people. It's so important.
I completely agree. Empathy and all of those human elements are huge. And there's a story I'd like to tell about that. It's a query that needs to be resolved, but the outcome is the same. But there's two ways of getting there. One outcome is the customer's happy. One outcome is the customer's not, except it's the same outcome. So the story is that this guy, he's flying, it's a Monday, and he's due to fly on the Friday. However, an emergency's come up and he wants to fly as soon as possible. So he called up and said, can I fly on Tuesday? Can I fly tomorrow? The airline said, no, that's not our policy. No, you can't. So, well, please, I've got a family emergency. I really need to fly tomorrow. I was like, no, the book it quite clearly states in the T's and C's. No, this is non-changeable. So no, you can't. The customer walks away very upset, thinks I'm never going to use this airline again. They're not flexible. The same scenario, he calls up, speaks to the customer service team. Well, I'm booked for Friday. Can I fly tomorrow? Let me check. At the moment, we've got no available flights for tomorrow. Let me check to see if we've got any on Wednesday. They come back. Not at the moment, but we do have one seat on reserve on Thursday. It's not guaranteed because we've got a waiting list. So let me find out from the other person to see if they want the seat. If they don't, I can get you on the Thursday flight. They go away. They come back. Really sorry, sir. They did want the seat. So we have no option. You can either fly on Friday, alternatively, if you want, due to the circumstances, we're happy to give you a full refund if you can find an alternative airline to fly with. But I'm really sorry, we won't be able to change that flight for you. Okay, they tried their best. Very happy. Same outcome, still had to fly on the Friday, but there was two different routes of getting to that answer. And the second one showed empathy, and the first one didn't.
Yeah, I think it's showing empathy, acknowledging the customer situation, actively listening, paraphrasing their concern, apologizing, not necessarily because you've done something wrong. You can just apologize for the bad experience. And then trying to find a resolution, even if you don't find it, showing you care. Those are easy stages to complaints handling. It's so important. You think I know what internal processes my clients have when they handle complaints? No. They know those processes anyway. Most of the time, they're already quite robust. They can be tweaked a little bit, but it's about how the team are handling those situations that makes a difference. I would like to go to the next question for you. One of the difference between those two situations with that airline example you gave is also related to how engaged the staff are. Training is about engaging the team. How do you see the relationship between frontline staff engagement and the delivery of a memorable customer experience?
So I think empowerment is key here. If somebody is empowered and treated like an adult and given structure and flexibility to do their job, they will work very hard. If they're micromanaged and not given the tools they need, they will not deliver. So if you want your team to be engaged, there needs to be a lot of work in engaging with them, making sure they feel valued, coaching them, educating them, training them, giving them the best training they possibly could have to deliver the job that they need to do. And once they're in that position of empowerment, they will feel stronger in an engagement point. We've all gone into something, for example, badminton. When I first walked into that sports hall in Paris, as an English guy, not being able to speak French very well, this was 2 years ago, I was absolutely terrified. Whereas now, I walk in there...
Terrified of the French.
But also...
You're not terrified anymore.
Exactly. And now I'm very confident. I say hello to everybody. Everybody says hello. I get cracking on with a game. I'm very comfortable now. And it's like anything. It's like when you start a new job, when a kid starts a new school, or when you meet new people. It's always a bit nerve-wracking. With the training and the build-up to that, when somebody does start a job, it's going to be a bit scary, but if you can give them every tool they need before that, encouragement, then when they walk into that job for the first time, they will be empowered and engaged and will deliver good service. And then ultimately, that will continue to carry on. But if they start off poorly, if I'd walked into that sports hall and people were rude and it was just not a nice experience, then it would continue that way. But because it was so nice, it continued to be nice. So that's the thing. The setup is the key. Train well, and then that engagement will continue.
Yeah, agree. I like the fact that you said it's also about that onboarding part, like how you onboard new employees to your company. Onboarding is crucial to your team's success, to how well they will perform, but also to how long they will stay with you, how loyal they will be to your brand, because your people loyalty is as important as customer loyalty. Onboarding is part of training. Onboarding should be about training. I'm currently building a digital training platform called Beyond Satisfaction Academy. It's going to be a digital training platform for hospitality businesses with powerful modules covering a lot of different topics, not only customer service, leadership, communication, team working, conflict management, personal development, etc., etc. That platform will not only be for guest-facing employees, it will be for anyone within the team, but also for onboarding. You're going to have specific onboarding modules because most hospitality businesses, they don't really have the time to train their team properly when they get started. They are being thrown in the arena and they have to fight with the lions without the proper tools. If you put me in the arena, at least I have a sword. Okay, but if you give me a stick, it's going to be harder. So that's the thing. You need to give the correct tools to your team for them to perform well. An example I give is when I go to a coffee shop and I receive bad customer service from the employees, I don't necessarily say to myself, that person is rude. I'm more likely to be wrong by saying that rather than saying probably that person is not being trained, supported, developed, led, and onboarded successfully from those first 3 months. And then we're surprised that employees like this with customers doesn't stick to your processes, doesn't deliver. You have those nice processes about how to deliver a great customer experience on paper. Your people are not following them. And then what you're going to do on top of that, blame them. You haven't done nothing to make them better.
You get what you give.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing. You're lucky they stayed because they could have not passed their probation or be gone. It was a question of recruitment. It was a question of performance. It wasn't the right fit. Have you been the right fit for the employee? Or is it only the employee who is not the right fit to you as a company? The next employee is going to be exactly the same.
Exactly. If you treat an employee like a child and don't empower them, they'll work and behave like a child. Whereas if you treat them like an adult and empower them to make decisions and take responsibility, they will. It's about getting what you give. If you treat them well, then they'll be fine. How many times you've seen people work and they're not in a very good mood, but they're probably bitter about something with their employee. Were they not given that day off, for example, or were they asked to stay late when they didn't really want to and forced into it? How much were they cared for? Because like I said, if people are cared for and they're treated well, they will be happy. And if they are happy, that will go off onto the customer. And he says it's all full circle. There's something I always think of as well from the other side, flip side, from an employee to a customer as well, which can be used on both sides. But when you think of the other person, it's very easy to say, oh, put yourself in their shoes. But what I find more powerful is imagine if that person is a family member, if that's your mum, sister, or wife. If that customer was your wife and you were delivering that service, or your wife was experiencing that service, how would you feel? Was that employee and the company was treating her like that? How would you feel about that? And then that kind of puts things into a bit of perspective. And I find that's more powerful sometimes than imagining yourself in their position, as if you put a close family member into that position.
Yeah. And you know how important it is to understand your customer's perspective in terms of many things. We put customers in cases most part of the time they don't necessarily deserve. We're going to put them on the annoying case because they are asking a lot of questions. But remember, what is obvious to you is not necessarily obvious to your clients. Doing that every day, that's your job. They're just coming there for 5 minutes, for an hour. They're paying you. It doesn't mean they're supposed to know. If they don't know, it's because you gave information based on your expertise rather than adapting it to your customer's level of expertise because they are not experts. That's why they're coming to you. What is obvious to you that is not obvious to your clients, but also so many other things. What is basic to you is maybe very stressful to your clients. We also have different personalities. Things that are not necessarily stressful to you can be stressful to someone else. It's really important to understand that, but also to understand the third point of the customer's perspective. Something secondary to you may be very important to your client. You do your job every day. They are coming here for a personal reason, for something specific. It doesn't have to be personal, can be professional as well. That may be very important to them. To you, this client is one amongst many in your day, in your week. But for that client, their inquiry is very important. How do you make them feel? How do you handle them based on when they get annoyed, when they complain, when they're frustrated, when they don't understand something? If you start by reminding yourselves on what is obvious to me is not obvious to them, what is stressful to them may not be stressful to me, what is secondary to me may be very important to them. Once you remind yourself on those three things, that's how you apply any great method, any great techniques, any great procedures. But you need to start by having that mindset. It starts with this.
I completely agree. And there's two little stories I'm going to tell about that. Number one is when my little boy was born back in April 2020. We went into the hospital and we were being dealt with by the midwives. My wife was in labour giving birth and things like that. That was the most significant thing that's ever happened to me in my life. However, that midwife dealing with us, this is probably going to happen 6-7 times just that day for her.
Yeah.
So for her,
Yeah.
it was very blasé, meant nothing to her. We were just going through the motions. She does this 20 times a week. Whereas for us, that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. So the perspectives are very different. Talking about perspectives, we all know the story of Little Red Riding Hood going through the forest. But interestingly, I like to tell the story from the wolf's perspective. The wolf was walking through the forest, and this is how it's always key to look at a customer's perspective. They might seem to be annoying, they might seem to be irrational, they might seem to be out of context, but people need to understand the story from the customer's point of view. So going back to Red Riding Hood, the wolf is walking through the forest. He gets approached by an old lady. He says, I want to play a joke on my granddaughter. Can you go and hide in my bed? And then when she comes in, just pretend you're me. And then at the end, you jump out and go, surprise, I'm a wolf. And then she'll go, where's my grandmother? And then I'll walk out of the cupboard and go, surprise. The wolf was like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. So he did. And he went and hid in her bed. She came in, she said, what lovely eyes you have, what big ears you have. And he thought, that's a bit rude, like big ears. I don't really have very big ears. I was quite insulted at that. But anyway, carry on with the joke. And what a big mouth you have. And he was like, that's incredibly rude. So I took it off and I shouted, boo. And then I said, why are you being so rude? And before the grandmother could come out, a man came running in, carrying an axe, shouting at me, threatening to kill me. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? I was supposed to be a joke. And so I jumped out the window and I ran away. I've never been able to go home since. And everybody assumes I'm the bad one. Everybody is saying the big bad wolf scared our daughter. And the grandmother, till this day, has never backed me up. I can't go home. Everybody hates me there now.
That's a good. Is the wolf not eating the grandmother? Am I getting confused?
In the true story,
yeah.
he did. But in the wolf's perspective, she's hiding in the cupboard. So she's just not there, basically. So we assume she's been eaten.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually. That's a good one. I like this one. Actually, is very true. It's a question of perspective. Even, I think sometimes, generally in life, I think social media makes us more tribal in terms of we see the content we like, want to see. So we become very close to other people's content and we very easily put people in cases. Either it comes to personal, to point of views on politics, society, etc. I think it's also the case a lot when it comes to customer service, and it's always been the case probably before social media appear, because you are also on your side of the equation. You are a lot into your perspective on a regular basis, but you also have to be dealing every day with clients that are on the other side of the equation, and you better understand their perspective. Thank you for sharing this, Dan. I wanted to ask you another question related to company culture. And I think the way, and I know it with the hospitality company I mentioned earlier called Four Seasons, which is to me one of the best hospitality luxury hotels company in the world because of the culture they implement and how they take care of their people. What have you observed about the ways exceptional customer experiences impact internal team culture, either in hospitality but also in any other industries?
Internal culture is massively important. And as for any of the listeners, obviously I have two companies. The founder and director of DAP Consultancy, which we mentioned, which is a customer experience consulting business. But I'm also chief operating officer for Pure One Group. And we have multiple brands, like I mentioned. PureOneTravel.com is one of them. And what we want to try and do within our company is make sure that the culture is right, because obviously we understand if people are happier, they'll deliver better services. So family comes first. If anybody needs a day off to take their kid to school, or their kid is off sick, they can have that off, no questions asked. If they're not feeling very well, or if they're tired because their kid has kept them up all night, we all understand how that feels to be tired. And we're trying to make sure that we have that culture first. And that's what we're doing internally, is to try and make sure that relays onto the people, because like I said, the happier the people, the better service they are. Family always comes first, is what we believe is our motto. And as well as that, I worked with very large companies over my time, and some companies have been better at it than others. I won't go into the negative ones for the purpose of this, but the positive ones, it's all about the key empowerment and being treated with respect. And that's exactly, like I said, going back to the same analogy can be used for this. Like, how would you like your mother, sister or brother to be treated by their employer? If you're not practicing what you believe should be kept true, then that's wrong. If you are treating them like you would want your family to be treated, your employees, your peers, however it may be, then that's the case. It's not just about the rewards and the recognition, it's just about the small things as well. So a thank you or good work today doesn't go amiss. You don't need to do all these fancy annual awards. Just treat people with respect and say thank you. There's one final story I tell about how a simple word can make such a difference. There's 2 housing estates opposite each other, building identical houses. This couple walked into one of them, looked around, saw somebody at the photocopier. They didn't come over, waited a few minutes, left, went over the road to the next show house. And when they walked into that show house, somebody was again at the photocopier, looked and said, "I'll be with you in 2 seconds. And if you'd like to get a drink, help yourself." And they bought the house from them. That small sentence of courtesy, "I'll be with you in a few seconds," it cost the other company £500,000 because they lost the sale of that house. But if you're waiting at the entrance of a restaurant and you get told, "I'll be there in a few minutes," it's the same as if you're going to meet a friend for a beer or lunch or coffee. If you're going to be late, you apologise. You say, "I'm really sorry, I'm going to be 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late." You don't just turn up. It's a case of taking those natural human reactions and putting them into a professional environment is the key takeaway for me.
And thank you for sharing this. I can't agree more with what you're saying. You hear very often it takes months to win customers, seconds to lose them. I could add something to this. It takes seconds to lose them, but it doesn't take that much to make them loyal. It's that little care, those little words, the care you're showing through your questions, the little gestures when you have to do them, through those little attentions, through the care you're showing when you are dealing with complaints or difficult customers, how you handle objections. If you want things to go your way and manage expectations the correct way and handle those courageous conversations successfully, it's also through the how you're doing it. And the best way to win an argument with a client and have things go your way is to make it about their needs, to show how much you care, etc., etc. So it doesn't take that much because all those things don't take time. You have to handle them anyway. So rather doing it properly and rather doing those small things on top of it or doing it by showing care to win that loyalty. All the big things we do in terms of delivering the service, reaching the promises we made, doing everything as per expected, they're expecting it, they paid for it. What they're not necessarily expecting and what they're going to be wowed by is all those little things. It's not necessarily about going above and beyond. You go above and beyond through the little things. It's through the little things that you go above and beyond. As simple as that. Did you want to add something on that? I have one very last question for you that is very important, but if you want to add anything on this, feel free to.
No, like I said, the small things make a big difference. It's good doing all the big rocks and moving the big rocks, but those tiny grains of sand, like in an office environment, if you go to get a cup of tea, offering someone else one, just saying thank you very much, all of those things, and same to the customers. We really appreciate your time today. Just be human, talk to customers like you'd like to be talked to yourself.
Completely agree. That last question I have for you, the pure customer experience question. Any best practices that you would like to share on how to bring your customer experience to the highest level?
So the key things on this, listen to your customers, whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, celebrate that with your teams. Keep doing what they like. If it's negative, celebrate the fact bringing you that key feedback and that care about your business. Take it as a compliment. So that's the first thing, is listen. The second thing is implement. So make sure that you take that feedback on board and actually act on it. Work out where the problems are, where the pain points are, what you can do to change. what other people in the business, other stakeholders can do as well. It doesn't always have to sit on the waiter's shoulders or the customer experience manager's shoulders. Everybody has a responsibility to be customer centric. Whatever role you're in can be customer centric. And the third thing, which is key, is just be human. Speak to customers like you'd like to be spoken to. Speak to them as humans, not as numbers, and be empathetic and care. That's the key things. Listen, implement, and be human.
Yeah. I love the three of them, and I love the third one, because at the end of the day, if you implement processes just because you want to be more profitable, you want to make your life easy, if you only do it for your side of the equation, you forget that you're dealing with humans. Sometimes those humans are going to end up having to go through the most complicated stages just to get a simple issue resolved, or just a simple inquiry. Like those phone calls you talk to automated voice, they do everything to make sure you don't speak to a human, and that human will definitely eventually be frustrated by it.
There's a time and a place for AI and humans. If you wanted to check your baggage allowance or check the flight times, you want to use a chatbot or a knowledge base or an FAQ. But if you get overcharged, you want to speak to a human. Both are great. AI and automation and self-help is great, but it needs to be there to complement the human approach as well. And there's a time and a place for both. Make sure you're using humans when humans need to be used, and use the automation when automation can be used.
Yeah, that's true. AI and automation needs to be there to enhance the customer experience, make easier the employee and the client's experience.
I agree. And I was just going to say, maybe we could have a whole podcast around AI and customer experience, I think. So that's a rabbit hole that we could go down and talk for hours about in itself.
That's very true. Probably next time we meet in Paris or London, we can start that conversation. We'll be so inspired. We'll want to do the podcast tomorrow.
100% agree.
Dan, thank you very much for being here today. Before we wrap up, I have a conclusion statement for this podcast. Customer experience can only be successful if your team experience is also successful. Starts by focusing on your people, not only on your customers. Thank you again, Dan. Before I give you the mic to share anything you like to share, I just would like to reiterate that for the audio episodes, the video episodes as well, both on Spotify, please make sure you are following my page, leaving me a 5-star rating if you enjoy it. Feel free to turn on the episode notification for my Spotify by clicking the bell, or add my episode to your playlist. For the video episodes on YouTube, feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can comment to both channels. I'll be more than happy to reply any of your comments. You can reach out to Dan via his website and LinkedIn profile that will be directly accessible under this episode. Dan, before I give you the mic, thank you again for being here. It's been a real pleasure. Would you like to share anything specific about your services that you haven't shared, but also anything specific in terms of what they could book or use to get to know more about what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on here. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. Very happy to finally make it happen, and we'll have to meet for a coffee in Paris or London soon. Just on the DAP Consultancy side, we're a customer experience consulting business. We offer solutions from CX strategy, market competitor research, to full-scale CX agent support as well. We cover your whole CX package. We help businesses deliver exceptional customer experiences. And then the other business, Pure One Travel, we are a startup, so we need all the support we can get. We're niche specialist bucket list travel. We do have your standard Maldives beach holidays with a cocktail, but we're looking at more niche bucket list experiences. If anybody is listening, please have a look at our website, which is pureonetravel.com. And sign up to our newsletter. Like I said, startups, it's hard. Any small amounts of support we can get would be great. I just want to say to everybody, thank you so much for listening. It's very kind of you to sit here and listen to me and Pierre talk for the last hour. Thanks again, Pierre, for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, and really excited for you about Pure One Travel. Very happy for you about your journey that I've been sharing with you, and seeing the progression, the growth of DAP Consultancy. So thank you again for coming. If you'd like to reach out to myself, feel free to do so on my website or LinkedIn profile that will be accessible under this episode. You can book your free discovery call there. You can see whatever you want to see about my different customer service training courses and programs that are all made bespoke. I have set courses, but I make them bespoke based on the needs of my clients. If you'd like to get to know more about that very exciting project Beyond Satisfaction Academy, that onboarding and training platform for hospitality and beyond. Feel free to do so by visiting also my LinkedIn and website. You can just connect with me on LinkedIn. Additional information will be shared as well on the website. Moving forward, the release of that digital training platform should be the next coming month. I'm very excited about that. It's been a great episode. Thank you again, Dan. Looking forward to the next one. That will be a solo episode, but I'm sure we'll have another episode very soon together. Thanks again for being here today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.